All right, everybody, we're going to be jumping into a series of lessons now that are going to revolve around three major categories. And the reason I've chosen to break it down like this is I want you to realize that if you're in need of a relationship breakthrough, whether again you're single, you're trying to get a relationship and you need to know how to do that or what went wrong before, or you're in a relationship that's not working right now, you need a breakthrough, you need to know, how do I climb to a higher position, how do I get to that level relationship, level 3 of love, right? How do I, okay, now I know where the different stations are, I know what the different positions are. I know what the different levels are. How do I actually do it? How do I shift into that place? It really revolves around three major categories. All you have to do to make a different relationship in any given moment and create a relationship breakthrough is we have to know these three pieces. Okay. And there's a lot more distinctions inside of each three pieces, and I'll show you how you shift each one. But I want you to remember, and I want you to write these down and have them kind of top of mind, because these are the three that are going to guide you after you finish this program. Whenever your relationship is in a place where you're like, I don't know if this is quite where I want it to be, all you have to do is you have to look at these three and change one or all of these three pieces, and you will be able to move into a higher relationship position in that moment. If you've been hanging out at level 2, you need to move into level 1, you change one of these three pieces, you can do it. Okay. So what I want you to get is that any problem inside of a relationship has very little to do usually with who your partner is, which is typically where people like to look first. Instead, it has almost everything to do with the patterns you develop in relationships, patterns of emotion, patterns of communication, and patterns of behavior. Those are really the three main sets of patterns. And what causes those patterns to occur is these three elements, right? The emotional state that you're in consistently, that you bring to your relationship. Number 2 is the story you have about the relationship or about the situation you're in at that moment. And then the third would be the strategy you are using to try to get the outcome that you want. So it's either one of those three things. Sometimes, you could have a really great strategy, but you're in a lousy state. If you're in a blaming, angry, frustrating, bitter state, and you try to do active listening, it's not going to work so great, right? So you got to learn how to manage your state. We also, if you have a whole story built up about how awful your partner is, it doesn't really matter how loving of a place you're in or whatever, right? You're going to be in a lousy story and you're not going to believe that things can change. So we got to make sure that we handle that. And then even if you're in a really loving state and you've got a really great story, typically the strategies will flow, but strategies can help change things. Okay. And these are listed in order of importance. So a strategy can change things for sure. But if you're trying to use a new strategy and your story is still, this isn't going to work, or they're still the problem, then you can see that strategy is not going to work. If you try to use a strategy and you're in a lousy state, that's not going to work. Okay. So strategy is important. It's just not the most important of the three. Story is the second most important, right? Having an empowering, meaningful story, not one that is limiting and unfair and blaming and all of those things. But what causes the story to even be introduced in the first place, what causes you to make a good story out of your relationship, what causes you to make a good set of meanings about what you're dealing with and how to deal with it, is the state you are in moment by moment by moment. So the state is the most important thing. Whenever I do joint couples coaching, if two people are in a bitter, angry state, the first thing I have to do is I have to change their state. I have to show them how to do that and reactivate a heartfelt, loving state. Because as soon as they get into a heartfelt, loving state, the stories change. They go, I was being such a dick. I'm so sorry. I don't really mean that. This is what I really feel. This is what I really believe, right? So the story tends to immediately flow from a new state. And then if you've got those two pieces, then you've got somebody who's willing to try different strategies, right? So state is most important, story is second most important, and strategy is the third most important, okay? A lot of what we're going to be covering is going to be how to update your state, your story, and then I'm going to be giving you a ton of strategies. So you're going to have all three pieces. But again, I wanted you to just have these because even after this program, your relationship's not going to be perfect. And when you have an experience where you're going, gosh, I feel stuck in my relationship right now, you have to return back to these three. You got to go, wait, what emotional state am I in right now? Okay, let me use what I was taught. Let me change my state. And very often that alone will get you the new insight you need. And you'll go, oh, duh, I just need to do this. Okay. Or you might go, gosh, okay, what is the story I'm having? What is the belief I'm attributing to this situation? What is the meaning that I'm operating from? And you go, well, I guess I've been operating from a meaning that I'm doing all of this and they should be doing all of this. And oh God, that's a level 2 way of making up a story. I need a level 3 story here. What would the level 3 story be? Okay, so that might be a way you kind of go about this. And then on the strategy side, you might go, God, I really am in a loving state. I really know we can get through. I know that we can get through this barrier. I love my partner to death. I just don't, what I'm saying is not registering. There's something missing here. What do I need to do? And then I'm going to give you so many different tools you can draw from that will close those things. Okay. So it's always one of these three. You don't need to hyperbolize the problems in your relationship. The problem in your relationship is not that your husband is arriving an hour and a half late for work than he said he was, or that your wife is not cleaning up the dishes when you thought that she needed to. Okay. The problem is the story you have about those actions, the state you're in when they do get home or when you talk to them about the dishes, and the strategy you have about how you communicate what your needs are. Okay. So it always comes back to these three pieces. Okay. So I wanted to just give you that introduction. We're going to be diving headfirst into all of these in the following order. And so I'll be excited to see you in the next video. But I want you to, I guess, let me give you one little assignment to just kind of turn this into some action for you. Go ahead on paper. I want you to try to answer what state have you been typically bringing to your partner. Okay, it's usually two primary states. There's the state you're in when you're not under stress, and then the state you're in when you're under stress. So for instance, if the state you're in when you're not under stress is just bleh, bland, boring, whatever. And then when you're under stress, you're like bitter, angry, all those things. Okay. Now you can see why your relationship is the way that it is to some degree. Okay. So think about that. Second, think about a story. What belief, what is maybe like the number one belief you think that you've had about your relationship? That's all I want you to answer for right now. What is probably the number one most consequential belief you've had about your relationship or about your partner that has been impeding your ability to take it to the next level? And then finally, what strategies have you been using that have not worked? So go ahead and write those down, because if you did nothing else except stop doing what you've done before that didn't work, you would be taking a step in the right direction. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then as soon as you're ready, go ahead, jump into the next lesson where we're going to dig into what affects all three of these pieces and give you a lot more clarity on each one of them. Talk to you soon.